As we heard from Leon, action cannot wait another day. Our global food systems are under threat, and millions of people are at emergency or worse levels of hunger. To our solution to hunger crisis, I want to welcome both Julia Monaco and Paul Skoczylas. Everyone, please. Julie, I'll start with you. How does Citi use its business capabilities to address hunger crisis amid the ever-changing global landscape?
So at Citi, we are the largest global bank with the largest footprint, and we are in 95 countries as a local bank and operating across a network of over 150 countries where we do business. And we are providing advice and financial services to governments, to corporates, to NGOs, to the World Food Program, who's been our relationship for 30 years. We've been helping them execute their missions in some of the most dire places in the world. And so it is natural for Citi to be very engaged on this topic because it has become such an important issue for the world, and we're well aware of it from our relationship with the World Food Program. But over the last 2 years, we saw that we had an opportunity to really bring the stakeholders together across the entire ecosystem because they're all our clients, and we had to bring them together to try to come up with solutions. In addition, we also spend a lot of time thinking about how do we evolve the way this aid is given for, how do we solve for food hunger on the ground operationally. And we worked with the food program to have our global payments engine work with a product that they created, this Plug Pay product, and allowing us to actually send payments directly into electronic wallets and banking accounts of refugees so that we could drive financial inclusion and increase and empower them. So that's just one small example.
Paul, I'll toss this to you. Through the Citi's Foundation Global Initiative Challenge last year, the World Food Program received a $500,000 grant, which is absolutely incredible. Your focus is on smallholder farmers, and because they produce over 70% of the world's food, supporting and investing in smallholder farmers is key to feeding our planet. Tell us a little bit more about the program that this grant is enabling.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Julie. It's an incredible honor to be here today and talking about food security and our partnership. And I want to thank Citi for making food security, whether they're working with us or other organizations, just to be in that space as a priority. We really thank you for that. So we received an innovation grant from Citi. We're really excited to get this, and it's focusing on smallholder farmers in Zambia. And as you might know, Zambia is a country in southern Africa. It's completely landlocked, and you've been reading about in the media El Nino effect. And the El Nino is really wreaking havoc in southern Africa. Zambia is one of the countries that is most impacted. And so right now, El Nino is producing a drought condition. They're saying it's the worst drought in 40 years. And so by focusing on the smallholder farmers, in many ways, these are the people who are on the front lines. And so if we can get it right with them, they're the linchpin because they're the ones who are producing food for themselves, for their communities, and for their country. And so this grant lets us focus on them with a package of support. So we're not just giving food assistance, we're not just giving cash assistance to these farmers, we're giving a package of support. It has 3 main elements. The first is we're working on financial literacy and education. We're connecting them to more information about weather, about agriculture, climate-smart agriculture techniques. And the second part is we have an app called Mono. And this app connects smallholder farmers to buyers of food. And so normally smallholder farmers would be selling their goods maybe on the side of the road, maybe in a local farmer's market. Now they have an app that they can use that connects them directly to buyers across the country. So they can look at the price, they can look at the quantity and make decisions and get more value out of their crops. And the third thing we're working on is microfinance and insurance. And this helps farmers plan their future and mitigate risks. And if we can, with this grant, help them navigate through this El Nino and come out as a stronger contributor to their local food systems, that's a big win. And we really thank Citi for that partnership.
That's incredible. Julie, I'll toss this back to you. Let's address how Citi has been able to step in and help when there are disruptions to the global food system, like we're seeing right now in Ukraine.
So Ukraine is an example, is one very severe example of how we operate everywhere. So Citi is the only US bank operating on the ground in Ukraine. We've been there for over 25 years. We are the major bank. And we're very proud of the fact that we have been able to operate completely undisrupted since the day the war has started. And so we're very important to the overall local financial system there. We bank all of the large ag companies that are in Ukraine, as well as the large local Ukrainian companies. So what we were able to do during the war was we provided them with credit holidays, extension on lending portfolio, preferred credit terms, all the things that were going to help them get through the initial part of the crisis while they were readjusting. And the Ukraine economy has readjusted. 2/3 of this economy is functioning fine. Most people don't realize that, and they've done an amazing job. If anybody saw this morning that they, basically took over being able to control their own destiny in terms of the Black Sea and getting their grain out. And last month, for the first time, exports in Ukraine is at the pre-war levels, which we're all very excited about. But one of the things we had to do was help our companies on the ground adopt their logistics. As they were adopting logistics and export operations, we had to help them by opening up accounts in different jurisdictions, help them with foreign exchange, help them with all the changes they were making to have to adjust to this war, and we did have to do that real time. Very similar, we also had to help a lot of NGOs around the world that had never operated in Europe before. They were used to operating with Citi on the ground in Africa, but all of a sudden they said, everybody all of a sudden called us overnight and said, we don't have accounts in Europe. We don't do business in Europe. So those are the ways that we've been supporting, and Ukraine, I think, is just one example.
That is absolutely incredible. One more time, a round of applause for that. Sure. Paul, we have a few minutes left. I want to toss this to you now. In emergencies caused by natural disasters or conflict, how does the World Food Program work to provide aid immediately? How can we use technology to reach those facing hunger and conflict?
Thank you, Eric. The World Food Program is really the first responder on food. So when you see a disaster on TV, whether it's a refugee crisis or a war, displacement, climate disaster, natural disaster, we're there to provide food. And we take great risks to do that because people have to eat. And that's a life-saving intervention. So anything we can do to innovate, use technology, use new ideas and data to be there to deliver quickly is really a life-saving endeavor. And so that's something we take very seriously. I'll just give 2 examples of some of the ways that we're doing this. And really, I look forward to maybe talking with some of you after and hearing other ideas about how we might innovate further. One is that 10 years ago, WFP was mostly delivering food, so parcels of food to people. Today, more than 30% of what we're delivering is cash, and it's mostly electronic cash assistance. So mobile money, e-cards, credit, different forms of transfers, electronic transfers to people. And if you think about that, that's a transition from basically an analog intervention of giving food to a digital one. And once you go digital, you have access to data, and you have access to many opportunities. If you can sort of bank people who are marginalized and poor, through a humanitarian intervention, later on you can do developmental work on training, education, and other interventions. And so this has really opened up a lot of opportunities, and it really lets us work with Citi, not just as a bank provider to us, but as someone who can help us innovate in digital payments. And so that's opened up new partnership opportunities, new data, new ways of working. I'll give a quick example on that. I was on the front lines when the Syria crisis was breaking out and people were crossing the border to Jordan and to Lebanon. And instead of giving them food, we gave them a cash card. And that was a fast intervention, but it's also very empowering. You've just left everything in Syria, you're crossing the border to a new country, and it's always great to get food, but in this case, getting cash card lets people make their own decisions with the aid that they're given, and it lets them contribute to the local economy and sort of acclimate more. And so that was an example of something that we could do much faster because of this digital transformation. The second one I'll just mention briefly is we're working with AI. And I know that many of you are working AI in your companies, maybe you lead AI. And for us, the one that we're working on is our global supply chain. So we're making big purchases on a commercial basis, but also micro purchases from smallholder farmers. And then we have to deliver in war zones and disaster zones. So you can imagine our supply chain is part sort of like a Walmart and part like, WFP delivering at the last mile. And so it's very complicated. So we use AI. We don't automate this through AI yet, but we do get lots of insights on where our efficiencies could be made, how to sort of anticipate what might be coming, and kind of look at our global supply chain. So that's been a big win for us. All told, some of these innovations in the past 2 years have saved us more than $150 million. And we also think that it's a bigger value to give cash or give some of these modalities in ways that are more, smarter and a little bit more nuanced using these new technologies. So it's a win for cost savings, but also a win for serving the people we serve in a better way.
I agree. I think it's a win for self-sufficiency as well. I think when you have issues like global hunger, right, allowing the people to kind of have the power back in their hands and giving them that cash card is just a brilliant move, and I definitely want to commend that. We have one more question, I'm sad to say. Julie, before we go, we've got a lot of your peers here in the room and obviously are watching all over parts of this world. What would be the message to you, what would be your message to other companies to how to be more impactful in the global hunger crisis?
So I think that we know that the global issue of food insecurity is not going to be solved by one approach or by one institution. It really is about public-private partnerships, and it's about us convening together across industry groups to look at the entire supply chain, the entire ecosystem, from food production all the way through logistics of getting food to where it needs to go, the technology innovation, not just the technology innovation around what we talked about today around payments, but ag tech, which is an industry segment that we cover as well. All of those companies have a role to play. And I would say what the last 2 years have taught us, because there has been sort of a enhanced focus on bringing together the stakeholders over the last 2 years, because we had such a jolt to the food supply when the war started with Ukraine. And I think that what we learned from it was that we had a unique role that Citi could play by bringing all of our clients together. And we did it with the World Food Program a few months after the war started in Washington, with an event together with all of the governments that were in Washington for the World Bank meetings, together with the NGOs and all of the ag tech companies, to say, how do we start innovating and solving problems? We know our role is to bring capital and payment solutions and all sorts of financial solutions, but every company has a role to play. But it's really understanding that we got to cross barriers and start talking to people that you wouldn't normally be talking to.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I have a follow-up, actually. So we're talking about companies, but individuals, how can we as global citizens make change?
Well, everyone here watching can head to the Global Citizen app and join Citi and the World Food Program on our 2-day Help End World Hunger journey, where global citizens can learn about the challenges of the food security, join the community in fighting against hunger. Today, the World Food Program and Citi announced our strategic partnership. We're going to be using the power of Citi's brand to really help amplify what the World Food Program is doing and what we can all do to help them.
Awesome. Julie, Paul, I want to say thank you once more for this amazing panel and information that you guys shared. Can't wait to hear a little bit more after the panel. We definitely want to speak. But thank you to everyone here, and definitely looking forward to a lot more conversation. Cheers, guys.
Great.